Coming at you from an undisclosed location 3 miles to the left of the center of the earth. It's the Fluffenhammer Community Radio, brought to you by Big Swingin' D and whoever he has chosen.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of what did I call this? These are the I'm terrible. I looked at this a minute ago. To the Fluffenhammer Community Radio Nova Open 2024. I'm David. Joining me is Darren.
Hello.
And we are going to be watching this morning's early hours Nova 24 preview video for Warhammer Community. We've already had a look at stuff, no doubt. You probably all have seen it already, but we thought we'd just watch it, react to it, and have a little natter about it. So let's get to it. Hey, it's Mr. Trug. Always good to see him back.
Yeah, I have missed him.
Yeah. It is a little bit of a shame it's still in the pre-recorded environment, but I think that's what they're going for. They're going for a slightly more polished approach, which I get it. It's just
it makes a lot of sense. It's easier to control. There's less chance of things going wrong.
Yeah, it's just those COVID ones had charm, and oh my god, you could hear Gruff squeal like a little girl since this started, couldn't you?
He wasn't even watching it, and he woke up half the nation.
Yeah.
It was just some sort of psychic beacon sent out the second they aired this.
I know, and my god, these miniatures look great.
I haven't actually seen them, but Jesus.
Yeah. Blood Bowl Chaos Dwarfs in plastic.
And the music they're using for this is just priceless.
I know. They couldn't have picked a better tune, could they?
No.
I mean, it does everything you want it to. And they look fantastic.
Yeah, they really do. So, Gruff's starting a whole new army then?
Yeah. I mean, I think he's posted before that he's expecting Chaos Dwarves or something version of it to be an army in the new year of some sort, which,
I mean,
yeah.
We all know the interlink between his house and what Games Workshop are planning, and that they have video cameras and microphones and everything everywhere, and somebody in the back room's just like, lads, see what he's working on this week. Do you think we should do it now? And the entire company just goes, of course.
I reckon they're just going to keep a track on how many boxes of these go to his address. Waiting for him to hit a certain threshold when it's like, excellent. Press the button, release the army. Crush his dreams. I
mean, I still think JoJo is actually working for them.
Oh yeah, Vlad's got a future in espionage, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Either that or Gruff needs to really be checking when Abby gives him one of her stuffed animals. But there's not like a camera inside it, because that's the other option. But man, these dwarves do look.
Yes. Like I've not played Blood Bowl. I keep threatening that I'm going to play Blood Bowl. I own a Blood Bowl team, Snotlings. I've still not painted them all. I used to play a Chaos team back in the day, and people just flat out refused to play me because the matches would end up with their entire team dead.
I mean, that's fair. That is how things went with Chaos teams back in the day.
Yeah.
They were brutal.
I couldn't score a goal, so my only other option was kill the enemy.
Yeah. I mean, I've just played a human team, and you can imagine if I went in most tournaments, I was the standard against everyone else, and it was just like, okay.
But yeah, I figured if I was going to get back into it, I'd do something that put me at a massive disadvantage this time. So Snotlings it is.
I have to admit, I have been tempted by the gnomes. Gnomes or the Norse.
Yeah, the gnomes look a lot of fun, but...
Yeah. But these guys...
Yes. Oh, God.
Yeah, I love the two who are ingesting the fire breathers, especially the one holding with his pinky up, just saying, no, 1 minute. And the hobgoblins are just...
Hold on.
Yeah.
They have iron hard skin, as all Chaos Dwarfs now do.
Yes.
Have they said something that I've missed here? Have they just announced Chaos Dwarfs are coming?
Oh no, I think they meant it as just the Chaos Dwarf team has iron hard skin.
Yeah, but I'm kind of hanging on to the as all Chaos Dwarfs now do. As in, they never had it before, but they do now. Hint, hint, Adam.
I mean, it's certainly a way to give them something unique. And it kind of harks back to the old thing where the sorcerers turned to stone as they got more and more powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite a nice callback to that, actually. Without having it be part of the actual, without having to release lore books and stuff.
Yeah. But there's so much to love here. I mean, the Bull Sentinels being resin, that's fine. That's to be expected.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they look great, frankly. But how the team looks in plastic as a whole...
Yeah.
I mean, that's an astonishingly good box.
Yeah,
just to have a bit of fun with.
Say what you will about Games Workshop, say what you will about the designs, the miniatures. The design team has absolutely been killing it of late. Yes, Blood Angels fans, I'm even including Blood Angels in that.
Yeah.
Fuck you, they were lovely.
Oh yeah, the only reason there's complaints is because of what came before them.
Yeah, which they were all right, and we'll probably see more improvements over time. Yeah. Everything is iterative.
I mean, I have found that somehow I have like 15 sets of those damn wings, if not more. So I'm sorted. I can do another 6.
Yeah, it's only a problem if you're ultra new to the hobby, or you've literally used every single bit in your bits box. But with 3D printers coming handy.
Yeah. I mean, there'll be ways to add wings back to them, isn't
it?
It's no biggie.
And now it's a Stormcast.
Ooh, yeah. For which all Spacian players go, ooh, conversions ahoy, lads.
I mean, the amount of Marine players today that have just been, well, there's my new chaplain.
Yeah, and you can't really blame them because that is a stonkingly good. The original Lord Relictor is still one of the all-time great models GW have put in a starter set. But it's not been available outside that damn sprue for nearly a decade. So to finally make it available on its own is fantastic. The Lord Celestin, I can see now why they put rules for Bearheart in the new White Dwarf, because that mini is going to become so many people's bases.
Oh, look, a Chocobo.
Yeah, this makes me laugh because it's like they're trying as hard as they can not to make a Griffin for them.
I swear I'm buying a load of those and painting them bright yellow just because.
Just get a load of the Paliadors. I mean, you can't really fault that. I mean, the Stormcast are just so good looking.
I am, considering my history as a Marine player, considering the fact that they've been my core army since I started, I'm kind of not that into the Stormcasts. But that's a personal choice. I don't know what it is. They just don't do it for me.
I do understand it. I mean, that's always been the Stormcast promise that they are Sigmarines, literally. I think the last 2 editions, though, have done a lot of work to move them away from that.
Yes.
The Thunderstrike armor, making it more fitted and less like power. I mean, let's be honest. Anything pre-Dominion, you could make a Marine with very little effort. They even had giant shoulder pads, for God's sake.
There is a reason why I've got an entire back catalogue of Sigmar minis specifically for conversion.
Yeah. But these... I mean, yeah, that Lord Relictor is primed the kit bashing into a chaplain.
Yeah,
I can already
the mounted one when they first announced them, just like, yeah, there's a chaplain right there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a gorgeous model, but I see so many people doing like a version for a bike chaplain on anything that's not a bike.
Yeah.
Was it the Lord Terminus box release? Is again the one from Scaventide is a great mini, and somehow this is even better looking.
He's the one that a lot of people have been turning into Cypher, isn't he?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I specifically picked him up for that very reason. Oops.
Sorry, I'm kind of working through the articles as well as having a video running at the same time.
That's fine. I've deliberately been avoiding as much as I can, which is kind of hard because of the amount of bitching that's been going on online today.
I know. I'm kind of glad that I just had a look this morning, then went down to my riveting work line.
Yeah.
But I mean, for Relictors, they're nice. For standard Relictors, it makes sense for them. I like that they've made them. Yeah, the fact they've made them the veteran option now for this chamber with double-handed weapon. Well, they've got the double-handed weapon option, which is so you had paladins back in the day. Then you had the Annihilators in Dominion, who could either have big hammer and shield or bigger hammer on its own, and these guys now have axes or gut big off maces.
Yeah, I mean, I've said many times on Discord, like, AOS isn't really my game. It's a game I wouldn't mind getting into, but I barely play as it is, so I kind of don't see the point at the moment. But the setting is quite cool, and I can see why a lot of people enjoy it. So yeah, and they are releasing some storming minis at the moment.
Oh yeah, the minis are. The AOS team are just knocking it out of the park. I don't think they had a bad release of mini design-wise in since probably before Dominion, to be honest.
Well, there's always been at least Sigmar, for example.
Yeah, that's a cracking. My only issue with Cities of Sigmar is I want more elves and dwarves.
I get that.
Given that same refresh to fit in, because don't get me wrong, I like using the older. I like the fact you can still use some of the old stuff, but given how they keep removing things, it feels like they're on a limited time frame. I'd like them to redo them to fit more in with the Mortal Realms.
Yes,
like the humans do. So
yeah,
and I think I actually really want to get some of the old Dark Elf stuff to do like heroic looking Cold One Knights, because that's an option in Sigmar. And I like the idea of doing that, painting something, because the Dark Elf range is quite sinister looking, but to paint them very heroically.
Yeah, that'd be quite an interesting take on them.
Yeah, I think that'd be a fun challenge to do, and just make them fit better into the aesthetic. But
as much as I said I'm not a fan of Sigmarines, oh god, that Tornus mini.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's nice. That's very nice.
And
I just like how the Stormcast have evolved so much over the last couple of years to feel.
Yeah,
they just feel more. I don't want to say distinct, but they feel much more their own thing.
Yes, as you said earlier, they were very much just Sigmarines back in the day, and now they are a bit more an actual faction of their own rather than just a Me Too faction selling a game.
Yeah. And to be fair, part of that also helps that the setting is much more accessible now, because I'll fully invest. Even though I wasn't really involved in GW, AOS, when it launched, I had no real interest in.
Yeah.
I was aware of it, I followed it, but it didn't really do much for me. And part of that was how they described the setting. It was a very pulled back view of things, and it didn't really make sense. But as successive editions and the fiction as well has expanded and brought things in and brought the focus in much closer.
Yeah,
It's it's been clicking more and more.
It took me a while to get back into reading. Like, I used to be an avid reader. I stopped for years for various reasons. The first book that I picked up was one of the Warhammer horror novels, which was the AOS one with the Dryads.
Oh, okay.
Which, oh my god, I have never been so sold on a setting as I was when reading that book.
Excellent. I mean, for me, ironically, it was getting into the Gotrek stories, following him from the old world into the mortal realms, and having his perspective on things.
Yeah.
And then some of the characters who started to follow him around, getting their perspectives, that really helped me kind of get my head around what the setting actually was, and how things operated. That, and the fact that who doesn't want to see Gotrek basically track down every demigod who you used to know in the old world and kick him in the nuts. Teclis, no doubt, is living in fear of his life at this point.
Of course. And yeah, that not Griffin miniature is lovely.
Yeah, they're big beasts. They're just on a tear with those at the moment. Like I say, it is so funny that they're doing everything they can not to give the Stormcast an actual Griffin.
Yeah.
They've got everything but Griffins now.
Yes. I mean, it's going to happen eventually, surely.
I mean, the thing is, the old Empire Griffin, the plastic kit, I built one last year to do it because I wanted a wizard to go with my OS force. Apart from the face of Karl Franz, which is a bit mid 2000s GW, just getting into CAD design wise, all straight panels.
Yeah,
bless him. It's actually a really nice kit and looks great, and will probably look really awesome with a Stormcast riding it, to be honest.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Part of me does have, because it's huge as well. It's a big old beastie.
So, I'm often surprised at how big some Warhammer minis are.
But they have been doing a pretty good job on that score.
Yes, here we go. The roadmap that everybody's complaining about isn't a roadmap.
Ah, yes. I mean, they can't really win, can they?
No. Because if they either gone.
Well, if they put too much out there, people moan about, "Oh, where's my thing coming? What? There's no mystery." And this time they've kept it a bit more vague, a bit more open.
Yep.
People are saying, "But it doesn't tell us." It's like,
I mean,
yes, it does.
It's a juggling act, right? You put too much out, and you actively potentially harm sales.
Yeah.
Which, as a business, is something you really need to watch. But at the same time, I'm looking at this as somebody that wants as much information as possible. I would love to see their blow-by-blow roadmaps internally, but I know that'll never happen.
Yeah.
What we have and what we've been given, as somebody that works in industry, as many people do, I get to see a lot of our developers' a lot of our supplier roadmaps. What has been given from last night is significantly better than some roadmaps I get from suppliers that I pay, or my employer rather pays, like £500,000 a year to for those purposes. Like, literally, there's a company that we're dealing with at the moment that looks after our monitoring systems and stuff. They're migrating all of that tooling to something else. It's a massive pain in the arse. It's going to cause us tons of pain. The roadmap we've got is we are starting on this date, we are ending on this date. That's it.
Yeah.
So, even though what's here is minimal, it's better than there's still a lot there.
Absolutely. And people forget, there was a time we didn't get any of this.
Oh, God, yeah.
I mean, we had to wait for White Dwarf to tell us what was coming down the line.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact we don't have to do that anymore, I still think is mind-blowing. The fact that White Dwarf isn't a catalogue at all anymore. It's actually a proper hobby supplement.
Yeah, and that's another weird complaint that you keep hearing lately, right? Like how White Dwarf's not as good as it used to be, and it's just a catalogue. But back when I started, it was only ever a catalogue.
Yeah, I want to know what White Dwarf these guys are reading, because current White Dwarf is some of the best it's ever been.
Yeah.
I mean, they put so much support in there for the hobby. Because they're not listing prices. They're not actually listing what's coming out at any stage, like they used to even 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
Instead, it's all here's what's in this month. We're going to tell you about the hobby and what you can do, and you can do this and that, and show you some ideas. And I mean, I've not seen it be this good in ages. So.
I do miss the old catalogs in the back, though, mind. They were always fun.
Yeah, and the old the big chunky catalogs you could buy as well. They were great.
Yeah.
I do miss those. I get why they moved away from it, especially with the shift over to mainly plastic, because they couldn't do bits anymore, which...
Yeah, I miss that.
Well, it's become its own cottage industry now, so... Sucks for GW on that score, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, it's so weird. I picked up the Nexus book recently, and I actually quite enjoyed that. I like these Crusade supplements, how they're doing them.
Yeah, I keep meaning to pick them up and never getting around to it, which is annoying because they do move the plot on. There is quite a lot of interesting stuff in there.
I still find
they are second best angels.
I mean, I can't comment. I have Blood Angel and Dark Angel minis dotted around all over the place at the moment.
I haven't actually touched my 40k Dark Angels in months. It's been all guard all the time.
I mean, in fairness, you did do a pretty decent chunk.
No, most of what's painted is stuff that I've had since I was a kid.
Well, I mean, the pictures you were shown looked like it was a pretty substantial.
Most of that was my old army.
I have to say, I am looking forward to getting this Blood Angel box set, though. I do find it is quite funny. I get removing Tycho because he's been dead for like 20 years real time now, let alone in universe. Gabriel Seth seems like a weird decision to remove him because he's so popular. And Corbulo is odd because he was a very specifically Blood Angel part of that old trifecta of chaplain, librarian, apothecary.
Yeah, at the same time, it being a fan favorite's never stopped them. Let's be honest. Go on.
Yeah, it's just quite funny how you can still buy the old Ezekiel model though.
Yeah, don't get me started.
Which is a great model, don't get me wrong. But the only thing they changed to it in like 30 years is they gave him a metal back banner.
Yes,
which is a lovely banner, but
I funnily enough went out and bought all the metal Dark Angel sculpts just for the back banners. But yeah, more Krieg.
Yes, that's. I mean, it's kind of typical because I've just recently finished my convert kit bash of a Krieg command squad. But that's fine. It just means I can buy a second platoon of Krieg.
Sorry, say again?
It just means I can buy a second platoon of Kriegsmen.
Absolutely. And they are a very popular faction for the God.
Absolutely. I mean, they've been popular ever since their resins hit, to be honest. And they've never stopped being popular. Yeah,
I mean, it's a bit meme-ish, but absolutely. They sell so well every time they're on sale. And the fact that they've shifted to plastic now.
Yeah. I mean, ever since they did the Veteran Krieg box set, it's been expected they'll get a full range, because it seems daft from not to be honest.
Curious about what's coming. Go on.
I just can't wait to see what they do for them. I imagine it'll just be like Fhcadians, a full, so heavy weapons, artillery.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the new Cadian setup too well. I've not looked at the minis, so I'm hoping it could just be a simple conversion kit.
No, it will basically be an expansion of the Krieg veteran box, because the Krieg is such a different vibe to the Cadians.
Yeah.
You really can't.
Yeah, more Solar Auxilia. Woo!
Yeah.
Sorry.
I just want more of them for my guard, to be honest.
Hey, they are my slowly building naval army, so.
But I do want a lot of this plastic mechanicum stuff as well.
Yeah, once Adam has done more designs and finished the concepting stuff that I'm asking him to do for me, I have plans for those.
Yeah, I want my tech priest just for my 40k Mechanicus army, and I've got ideas for the rest of it. And the thing is, I get why a lot of the Marine stuff has been taken from for Heresy isn't in 40k, but for Mechanicum stuff, especially as for Mechanicus Codex is so slim compared to a lot of other armies.
Yeah, this is something I've never quite got. Like Marines in 40k are bloated. They like every single option that you could possibly want has at least 4 or 5 different options minimum. To the point where it's just utterly absurd for like an elite strike force that's the minority, that's very tiny but very well equipped. They just have more options than anything. It's nuts, right? You would expect the Guard to be the more broadly supported in terms of options. You'd expect the Mechanicus to be more broadly supported in terms of options, but no.
But there's just so much out there, though, to mess around with. Because coming to plastic, I mean, I've seen I've got a few places that still have the Mechanicum box set available, which I will probably get in the next few weeks because it's such a steal.
Yeah, I've been tempted, but I'm saving up for more planes, so
fair. But you can find uses for almost everything in there. I mean, I've already been teasing up ideas of, well, for tech trolls, you could use this for Skitarii.
Yep.
Or you could use them as a particular type of inquisitorial agent for inquisitorial acolytes. Just really creepy ones. Because I'm sure at least one inquisitor who's just lobotomized all his henchmen and gone, that's simpler. No one talking back. Carry on.
Funnily enough, that's my plan for a Darkmech army almost.
Yeah. And I'm already thinking of ways I can proxy most of the Mechanicum stuff into Mechanicus. So because the bases match up more or less.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. But I mean, I like the fact that they've said that they're doing like more plastic weapon kits for Marines. That's
cool. Yeah. I mean, there's a huge amount of stuff to move from resin and Forge World into plastic, right? It's not a simple, easy job.
Oh god,
everything needs retooling. They need to fit it into their production scheduling. They need to do sales forecasts.
Yeah,
it's such a bonkers amount of work. And as much as I wish it was as simple as cool, we'll migrate into plastic. Click.
Yeah,
it really isn't.
Really isn't. But it's stuff to look forward to. I mean, Plastic Legion upgrades.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're going to see a lot of use in both 40k and 30k as well, right?
Hell yeah. I mean, I'm still looking forward to seeing the rest of the armor marks get translated.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be crazy not to. I mean, at the moment it's a question of, are we going to get Mark 5, Mark 2, or Mark 4?
Yeah.
First, which order it comes in.
Yeah.
Oh, Imperialis.
Several years worth of work.
Yes. Every time I think I'm on the ball, suddenly I have more stuff. I mean, I've got 6 dragons I need to build at some point.
Say again?
I've got 6 dragons to do at some point. It'll be 8 soon.
Of course you do.
Well, that's what I get for ordering all the Stormdrake Guard I could possibly get my hands on.
This is why I've not been bothered trying to chase stuff anymore. My backlog is phenomenal. I have boxes of stuff from those goddamn magazine subscriptions.
Yeah.
It's getting silly. I need to sort through them all and work out if I'm ever going to use them or if I should just give them away or sell them. Because, Jesus.
Yeah. I need to try and dig out all the boxes I put the terrain into because, Jesus, I have so much of that plastic terrain now.
Yeah. I've got probably enough for several battlefields at this stage over both systems.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of gutted I sold off the AOS stuff from the Mortal Realms artwork because I should really have kept at least the graveyard from that.
Yeah, that's a beautiful set. Really is. And it's so compatible for both games, like all of their systems as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's why I love the fact they brought back the old Warhammer
Empire
scenery. Because I've already got ideas in my head to do a full more time type table.
Yep.
Just using those kits, because you could, and they're so much cheaper than you expected them to be.
I know. Like, it's quite funny. So there's a 3D modeling company called Grundart Terrain that focuses on Legions Imperialis and Titan Legions scenery.
Yeah.
And the community that's built up around that, the company has turned into the epic scale version of a train enthusiast group. Like, we are just designing and building cities using this stuff. And it's just getting bonkers. Like, people are going all out and building like permanent static boards with them and everything. And it's so easy to do. Like, I've joked that like eBay's been showing me loads of model train kit stuff, and it's just like, a switch is flicked. I am in my 40s. I should get into model trains. No. I am building battle boards from now on.
Yeah, that's kind of like me and my sudden interest in historical gaming. I keep looking. I'm trying so hard to resist getting into any of them too heavily. To be honest, I'm trying to stick to like the weird stuff like Silver Bayonet or 200 hours instead, for stuff that's either skirmishy or just fantasy tinged historical. Because I don't.
Yeah,
I don't think I could survive going full on historical.
I am very glad that historical stuff squicks me out. I don't like the idea of recreating things that could have actually happened.
Yeah, I get that. I try very hard when I look at historicals to think of it, because on the one hand you do want to try and respect it, but on the other hand, a lot of us grew up on those boys' own Hollywood World War action movies.
Yeah.
Which is not what a lot of these games really are, but you kind of can't help yourself.
Yes.
So.
Here we go.
Was this the most unexpected release of the year?
Kill Team? Yeah.
Secundus.
Yeah. Oh, Secundus. Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, Secundus was a weird one, because if you'd been vaguely following, even like at a distance, Necromunda, you kind of knew it was coming.
Yeah. But so no one really expected it to be the way they did it.
Oh, God, no. Like, for a while I was thinking, Secundus is going to be a setting, there's going to be some rival gangs from there, we'll probably get NIDs properly, or like Steelers at the very least. Not what we got.
Yeah. The fact we got bloody Spirers back.
Yeah.
And I know some people aren't sold on the new designs, but when you look at the article going into the design process, and it's like, the reason these look inhuman is because they're not designed for humans, so every Spirer has had to be basically broken to fit into the suits. It's like,
Also, who could have predicted that Lord of the Rings would be getting releases still?
I know, and a new box set, which looks like it might even have a refresh of Rohan plastics.
Yeah. Like, it was a dead game, right? Nobody was playing this.
Well, that's the thing. People were still playing it. It was a system that GW have supported just in a very low-key way for since they launched it. Even when it it went for a period where they didn't really, post-Hobbit, where they didn't really do anything with it. They just kept it going, kept supporting it.
I think at launch it was huge. Like, they went in hard. It was in all of the stores. You couldn't move away from it. You couldn't get away from it. It was everywhere. And I actually kind of hated it at the time, because it felt like it was taking up space for stuff that I cared about.
Oh, yeah.
But I was also like 18 and an idiot, so.
I get that. I understand where you come from completely, to be fair with that one. When they launched it with the whole White Dwarf being split halfway through and upside down, so to go read it from back to the
God, yeah.
It was a fun idea. I mean, I have a complete run of the Battle Games in Middle Earth magazine around here somewhere.
Yeah.
Which I still think's kind of like the benchmark for that sort of hobby magazine, which, because of how much good stuff there is in it, like building Rohan terrain from scratch and how to build thatched roofs, it's still, to my mind, one of the best resources for doing that.
Yeah, definitely. And with that sort of stuff, I kind of get some, like we were joking earlier about how people complain about White Dwarf's not a hobby magazine anymore. But I get the complaints because a lot of that stuff was in White Dwarf back in the day, whereas it's less there now. But when you think that Games Workshop sells scenery, it kind of makes sense that it's not there now.
Yeah, and let's be honest, it's a lot less hassle buying one of their plastic scenery kits than having to build it yourself.
Also,
it's probably not as expensive, not as cheap, but it's the trade-off between, it's more expensive, but it's also more convenient.
Did I screenshot this? There was something I saw the other day from an ex-member of staff who I know is an ex-member of staff saying that the How to Build Hobby Scenery book sold so well that it had some teams internally quite worried about some of their plastic kits at the time.
I can understand that, but at the time it sold well because there wasn't anything else to work with. So of course it would sell well for people who wanted to build their boards as part of a hobby. So
yep, absolutely. And there was nothing else out there like that in this community. Unless you're into model railways and stuff, or you knew that model railway hobbyists had that kind of crossover.
I mean,
I think never have known half of those tricks.
I think there were some historical hobby books out there, but they were also harder to get hold of, and generally also a lot both drier and more expensive.
Yes.
So and GW was always skewed younger, so they weren't really as attractive. Whereas the GW how-to books, which are not perfect, but they do give you some excellent foundation to go forward on.
And as you say, the GW's always skewed younger, so the books are targeted for the audience, which even if you're in your 30s, 40s, whatever, if you've never built hobby scenery in your life, you need that kind of we're not talking to you like you're an idiot, but you're an idiot. This is how you do it.
Yeah. It's KISS. It's all you got to keep it KISS.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You get that foundation down, and then you can start layering all the heavy stuff on top.
Yeah, and this is why they're the biggest hobby company on the planet in tabletop wargaming, because they get that you've got to start with the very, very basics. They get that you've got to bring, it's. They are toys at the end of the day. Toys are aimed at kids. There's the old adage that if you want to keep a customer for life, you get them while they're young. Every company knows this. Games Workshop really hammer that home because everything they do is targeted and written and designed in a way that's quite kid-friendly. And it's all about the hobby trumpet, as we all know.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think I can ever pass a Warhammer shop without walking into the damn thing, just because...
Yeah. Or at least gazing through the window, just like, ooh, look at the pretty things that they've built this week.
Yeah.
Living in Manchester, oh my god, every time I walk down the road with Games Workshop on it, I have to force myself to keep walking because those guys, I can't remember his name. Is it Andy? Either way, the Games Workshop Manchester manager is an absolute nutcase when it comes to building ridiculous things. Like, the guy's an orc builder, so of course, yeah. And have you seen their window display?
I don't think I have. I've never.
Oh, dude. Right, I will dig out some pictures. You will cry. Basically, it's a Blood Angels chapel or something being assaulted by Tyranids, and it's floor to ceiling.
Oh lordy!
They even have a Tyranid spaceship coming in and everything. It's absolutely bonkers how much work has gone into this thing. Yeah. I have no words for how fucking awesome this thing is. Here we go. I will send you a Reddit thread. When I say floor to ceiling, I don't think you quite grasp what I mean by floor to ceiling. Check that out. I will probably need to link this somewhere for Adam to link to it as well. And this is from a couple of years ago, and they've improved on it since.
Mother of God. Holy.
Right.
Now, I'd like to point out, I've seen the model that Hawk Wargames made for Dropfleet Commander for using one of their Dropship Commander ships, but building it at... No, one of their Dropfleet Commander ships at dropship scale. because they took it to Salute a few times, and that's like 6.5 feet of insanity.
Yeah.
I think this might take the biscuit even more, to be honest, because that's nuts.
Yep, it's worth checking out the Facebook page because they drop pictures of it in periodically when they're doing updates on it, and it's just bonkers. Like, if you've ever been to Warhammer World, they do big displays really well there. Like I think it's Chaos versus Ultramarines, big, massive single room display that's over like 4 floors or something. It's unreal. But seeing this thing in person and being able to get that close to it and seeing it in the small space that they have is so much more impressive. Much more impressive.
That's really nuts. That looks fantastic.
And as I say, if you follow their Facebook page, they keep dropping updates on it. Constant tweaks and changes and updates and mods, and it's unreal. Like, I cannot express how phenomenal this thing is to see in person.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to get on their Facebook page and follow them because that looks amazing.
I'll link you because it's easier.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I've seen that even comes close to that is one of the old Warhammer World displays, which was the Tyranids versus Space Wolves. And that, for its time, was phenomenal. This is just such a glow up from that concept.
As I say, the trick is they have a very tiny amount of window space to work with, so to have crammed that much into that smaller space is just bonkers. Like, you go to Warhammer World, you see some of their ridiculous builds, and it's mind-blowing how much they've done. But then they have
space to work with. Yeah. This is just making use of every, and in fact, so much stuff actually hanging as well. That's fantastic.
Yeah, as I say, if you cycle through those pictures a bit towards the end, you'll see the NID bioship, which fully scratch built, fully suspended from the ceiling, absolute madness.
Yeah, that's quite brilliant.
Yeah, their manager is absolutely unreal, and to be fair, all the guys there are awesome. I don't go in often because they very rarely have the stuff in that I want, with it being such a small shop.
Yeah.
And I always feel bad, just like, oh, we can order it in for you. No, it's fine. I'll go home and order it online where it's cheaper. But yeah, they built a Ordinators for that setup as well.
Fantastic.
Like, these guys are mental. It's so cool to see in person. Here we go. Here is a full view from inside the store. Copy image.
Oh.
Yeah.
Crikey.
Yeah.
that
NID bioship is bonkers, and like all the cannon fire and
the fact they got all those weapon effects is it's just
really well done piece of work.
Words fail.
I should probably drop this somewhere in case Adam wants to like link it on the article page or something.
I think that's a good idea because that's mind blowing. That really is.
Let's put it in the Cortex channel. So reveals.
Yeah. So I mean, it was for being such an early hour of the morning for us here in England land. I can get why some people would have been a bit disappointed by that.
Yeah,
because it wasn't perhaps the mind-blowing reveals they might have been expecting. But I mean, the Stormcast and Blood Bowl Chaos Dwarves.
They were lovely.
That's a pretty good mic drop, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And the rest of it, I mean, I've put it in the Discord chat for them not actually telling us much about what's coming for the rest of the year, or the fact that they've left it blank after certain points, means there's still a lot of space for them to put in surprises.
Yes, and I think this is what a lot of people don't get. Like,
Mm.
it's one of the problems that I have with a lot of communities, and I think the Warhammer 40k, Games Workshop, whatever community is pretty bad for it. Like, I remember a few years ago, the Dark Angels were getting a mini codex in a White Dwarf, and the Dark Angels Facebook groups went absolutely apeshit, like pegging it as the biggest thing ever. The Lion was coming back. No.
Oh god.
And there were a handful of us that were just like, guys, it's a White Dwarf mini dex. It's just going to be a brief rules update, maybe a bit of backstory. It's going to be a couple of pages, maybe half a dozen tops. You are overhyping yourselves. Stop being stupid. It came out. It was 5-6 pages. It was a bit of background story. It was info on a new special character, and it was some rule updates and stuff for us, and that's all it was. And they tore themselves to shreds in rage over it, and it's just like, told you.
Yeah.
And the problem is, we as a community, we create this self-fulfilling prophecy of hype, and a lot of the disappointment comes from the fact that we hype ourselves up so much and excite ourselves so much over the thing that we love, to the point where it becomes detrimental to the hobby in some ways.
Yeah,
and detrimental to us as a community.
And it's not just our community, unfortunately. It happens in so many.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But you're right. It does kind of rear its head in some unfortunate ways for it.
Yeah, and being completely honest, like the roadmaps, like as somebody that wants to know every iota of what's going on and when, were disappointing. But at the same time, there was enough there to call it a roadmap. There was enough there to say, we are doing the following things. It was a celebration of what's come before, which I think they don't do enough of. Like, it's been a stonking couple of years for Games Workshop as a company. They've cranked out so much, and I don't think people remember that. Like,
absolutely.
I was in the Manchester store the other day, trying to get some Solar Auxilla minis, and the guy that I spoke to, like, I walked to the back because I know that's where the heresy stuff is. I'm just like, crap, they've got none. Instantly turned around and went to leave the store and got collared by a member of staff. And he's just like, what are you after? And just like, Solar Auxilla stuff. I checked online and said it wasn't online only, so I figured I'd try it. And he's like, yeah, this is the problem. We've got like 80,000 products and we can only fit 9,000 in the store. I'm like, no, I get that.
Yeah.
I don't blame you for not carrying stuff. You guys have an insane amount of products to sell.
Absolutely.
And a lot of that has only come in the past, 5 years or so?
Yeah, I mean, just in plastic kits alone. I mean, think what we've had in like the last edition of Kill Team as the example here. So we've had Deathcore, Arbices, naval boarding teams, Inquisitorial agents. We've had
Chaos Lads.
We had Chaos Lad. Well, 2 flavors of Chaos Lad, Legionnaires and Night Lords. We've had Striking Scorpions, Eldar Pirates, Dark Eldar Pirates. We've had we've had the Croots.
Like some of these may have only been upgrade sprues for existing kits, but you know what? That's enough in some cases.
Yeah,
like
some of these do just need. Some kits are good. You just need that upgrade kit, which is something you do have really kind of mastered.
The other thing that I find interesting. So, do you remember when the Cadian upgrade sprue came out?
Yes.
And everybody was bitching and moaning because it was just an upgrade sprue. And it's just like, have you paid attention to what this company does and how they operate? Give it 3 to 6 months, you will get a full upgrade.
And lo and behold,
3 to 6 months later, we got a full upgrade. And my God, what an upgrade.
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually kind of glad I didn't buy that upgraded box set, partly because, well, you don't want to know how many unbuilt Cadian sprues I have from the old edition, from the old version.
Say nothing.
I mean, I am thinking of buying a load of Pith helmet heads just to make a Praetorian army out of them.
Nice. That'd work.
Because I could. I have that many. Because I just do. That's what I'm like. You should all know this by now.
You are so negative.
But yes, I'm the most negative man on the planet. It's obscene of me. But no, but that. I mean, the actual upgrade itself was a good upgrade sprue.
Yeah,
it's some really good stuff because it
Yep.
it introduced female heads.
Yep.
Which has been a long time coming.
Yep.
Especially to the Imperial armies. They introduced. They put in plastic a whole load of weapons that previous to this was restricted to the command squad box set if you wanted them, but were kind of like essential parts of the loadout options. And it just gave him more flavour.
Yeah.
And then when they finally did do the full release, it was all that flavour and more.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's weird, right? Like, I get it. You, as a fan of the hobby or a member of the community or whatever, you spend years collecting this range, possibly decades in some cases, and there's very little change. There's very little fluctuation in it. It's you get your core box, and then you're forced to buy the command box to get all the extras that you might need to build the units that you want, and that sucks. So then to be, oh no, here's a little offering of an upgrade sprue. I get why people would be upset about that rather than getting a full range refresh. But at the same time, if you've been in the hobby so long that you've been collecting these things for over a decade, you must have a certain amount of pattern recognition going on to go, so they've just released an upgrade sprue. I wonder if this means that in 3 to 6 months' time we are going to get something more. Should I buy the upgrade sprue stuff? Maybe I should wait.
Yeah.
I might buy it anyway. It's weird because if you were one of the people that bought the upgrade sprue, I get why you would also be butthurt because it feels like you got short shrifted while Games Workshop were working on the other stuff.
Yeah. Ironically, I do feel a little disappointed I didn't actually end up getting that sprue in any form, purely because it has some really nice parts on it.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I love having spare parts.
I think, same. And I think this is something that a lot of people kind of forget. Like, the stuff that you buy doesn't devalue because more stuff comes out. If anything, in this hobby, it increases the value in some ways. Like, I am desperately killing myself to get as many of the old Firstborn kits as I can before they all disappear, because I know they're going to disappear, and then I'm going to hate the fact that I've not got them.
Yeah, I mean, I've spent the last couple of weeks. I've been building a few Firstborn Death Company units. Out of one Death Company sprue, I bought the one Death Company box. I bought like 10, 15 years ago when it first came out. I'm now trying to source the parts I need to finish off most of those guys. So I'm not at the point where I've paid as much as buying another box. So until I hit that point, I'm fine. I have no problem. It's not an issue. Trust me.
It is an issue. But it's like I get the upset in some cases because it's like on one hand you feel like the toys that you bought them devalue by the new stuff coming out, but at the same time they still work. They're still, like, oh, all right. Being squatted is a running joke in the community. Like, ranges can be cancelled at a given moment's notice. What we've seen with Primaris is Games Workshop at least try and handle it. Some people would disagree. They try and be fair. They're not just going to instantly nuke an army. We've had Primaris now for what, 6, 7 years?
Yeah,
it's been a long transition. And I get why, at the time, Space Marine players would be upset because their precious power armored boys aren't quite so precious and power armored as they used to be. But you were able to use them for nearly another decade. And even after that, proxying is a thing. Old editions are a thing. Playing games with mates using Legends rules are a thing.
Yeah. Well, it's like with this Blood Angel army I'm building, I've actually, alongside that new box set, I've ordered a box of Heresy Assault Marines. Because my Blood Angel force, this stuff is coming, I'm probably not going to be using any of the Primaris stuff in there.
Yeah.
Instead, I'm building a force that's purely Firstborn survivors of Baal.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be getting this assault squad. I'm probably going to run them as a jump pack intercessors. Nice.
And you see that there's a lot of that going on. Like the Arbitarian Discord, obviously, if anybody follows him, they'll know that he's doing a Badab War at the moment. And a lot of the guys, like a lot of the folks in the Discord, are literally pulling it. Like they're pulling from decades of old Space Marine collections they've got. They're going on eBay. They're getting the metal minis. Some of them using Primaris minis. Some of them using Heresy minis. And nobody cares because it's all the same thing.
Absolutely. I mean, the Primaris rollout has been not to everyone's taste, but it needed to happen. They started that scale shift with the Death Watch kill team.
Yep.
And to be fair, part of that change isn't even down to being scaled up. A lot of it's just the poses, because I think a lot of people forget pre-Primaris Marines, most of them are in some really squat ass poses.
Oh god!
But as soon as you change those poses, it's like the Space Marine Heroes Tactical Squad.
Yeah,
they look a lot more Primaris size. They're not Primaris size, but they look a lot closer to being true scale because they're in better poses. They're
not like hovering over a toilet.
Yeah, they're posed better. They look like they have more stature to them. And to be fair, that's just the evolution of GW's ability to make these things. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Don't forget that the Space Marine Tactical Squad is still effectively just an iteration of the 3rd edition plastic Space Marines.
Yep, it's crazy.
It's had a lot of work done to it. It's got more detail. They've added more armor marks to the sprue and whatnot. But fundamentally, I mean, no joke, I'm still using parts from that 3rd edition wave of releases with that newer sprue.
So you'll get this. My bit straws are full of 2nd edition bolters and backpacks that are still getting used to this day, where it feels prudent to use them because they were just cool sculpts.
Don't tell Andy you've got those. He will try and mug you for them.
It's a good job that my address isn't published anywhere. You can find it.
Because he's doing a Rogue Trader. He's doing a 2nd edition era Blood Angel army.
And the old weapon sprues are like gold dust. I'm in a few 2nd ed groups, and people are constantly on the hunt and paying silly money. And it's just like, should I sell these and retire now?
I mean, I have two complete sprues of bolters, shoulder pads, and backpacks with the knives and everything as well. So the temptation to go on one of those and say, "Would anyone like these?" is tempting. I should probably do it because I could probably do myself a solid by selling half of this stuff. But
yeah. But at the same time, the urge to use them in kits and stuff.
I know.
Like, I mean, I love dropping in old legacy bits every now and again. Like hell, my Warlord base has the old autocannon, the resin Forge World one. Huge, chunky one that looks nothing like an autocannon anymore because they changed the design so much.
Yeah, I love that autocannon. I've got the Exterminator and the Salamander with that on.
Yeah,
just because
it's a lovely beefy design that looks like it can tear all hell out of something.
Yeah, compared to the autocannon, they say it's an autocannon on the Solar Auxilia Lehman Russ Vanquisher, and I'm like, are you sure? That looks like a heavy stubber to me, lads.
I mean,
which is handy.
Considering that they've kind of changed, like the original design of the autocannon didn't reflect its abilities in game. It never looked like a rapid fire weapon. It had 2 bloody shells in its ammo hopper, for God's sake.
Yeah, I mean, the autocannon is one of those weapons. Of all the guns in the Imperium, it's probably the most loosey-goosey one around. Because like in Gaunt's Ghosts, you can never tell half the time if the support teams are firing an autocannon or a heavy stubber.
Yeah.
Which in game terms, those 2 guns work very differently.
Yep.
But the damage the ghosts seem to do with them just varies from scenario to scenario, which I find absolutely hilarious.
As somebody reading through all of the Ghost novels at the moment, absolutely, yeah. Like literally, Bragg lugged his assault autocannon and devastated the squad with shot after shot, just pummeling them with constant rounds. The next book, Bragg lugged his autocannon and fired a single shot. Wait, which is it? Is it autocannon? Is it single shotgun? What is this, a setting on the gun?
Well, Bragg, I love the fact that he starts off, I think, with a heavy bolter,
Mm-hmm.
He then moves to a missile launcher for a couple of scenarios.
Yep.
At one point, he picks up an assault cannon that's been on a turret mount. And then in one book, he's using 2 autocannons he's strapped together and uses a spoon to pull the triggers.
Yeah.
Which I love. I love that he's done that, because Bragg's one of my favourite characters, just because...
Oh, poor Troy.
Yeah.
I was so angry about that part.
I know. I had to when that happened, it's one of those situations where I had to reread it multiple times.
Yeah. So
I was like, but I understand, because Bragg is probably the one character that, for where the ghosts were going, he kind of had to die.
Yeah.
Because no one else could have filled that spot, and he wouldn't really have fitted with where they were going.
Yeah. So when the Ghost novels first came out, I read them quite sporadically via a mate who bought everything. So I didn't read all of them, and I didn't read them in order. I'm now, I think, up to the point where I got as far as I ever got with them, which is the book before His Last Command.
Ooh, Traitor General.
That's the one.
Yeah.
And they have changed so much from book to book to book in terms of how stuff's portrayed, in terms of what's available to them, in terms of what they are becoming as a faction, and it's just kind of nuts to look back on all of this.
It's actually really fascinating reading the Ghost, because it's not just the evolution of Abner as a writer, because people forget that Ghostmaker was First and Only was his first published novel. He'd written short stories before, which is where the Ghost came from, but he hadn't actually had a published novel prior to this. But to see his evolution as a writer across the whole series of the Ghosts, but also it's also alongside the evolution of the Imperial Guard
and the setting as a whole.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, you read, what's it, the Winkler Insurgency book that you did, going back set just after the second Ghost short story, effect, and he's bringing stuff in and ideas that he only ever really introduced in the much later books, and stuff that he's now setting up to be paid off with wherever the Ghosts go post Anarch, which I'm deeply fascinated by. It's the same reason I'm intrigued by the last of the Beckwin books when he gets out, Pandemonium, because I've come to the realization that Pandemonium can't actually exist without all the work he's done in the Horus Heresy.
Interesting. So I haven't read any Eisenhorn stuff since possibly the second Ravener book. So a lot of my reading back of Games Workshop stuff back in the day was via an old friend of mine who, as I say, he'd buy everything. Like anything he wanted, he'd buy. Like manga, anime, Warhammer, you name it. I'd go to his house, he'd have a new copy of it. So invariably, he'd just go, "Have you read this? No, lend it." And we had a falling out a long time ago for whatever reason. So I just stopped reading it all because I had no easy access to it, and I was poor, and I couldn't afford books because I was on a shit wage and living in a place of my own. So it was all you could do to survive at the time. And it's only really the last probably 12 months I've got back into reading at all. So yeah, I'm rediscovering all of this stuff, and there is so much catching up to do. And I've had some of the Beckwin stuff spoiled a little bit by friends, which is fine because I personally I don't care about spoilers. I actually like speculating and trying to work out how they get to the situation they're in. And what I know of the second Beckwin book is so goddamn consequential for the setting that I don't even know how he's going to be able to pull it off.
I know, right? It's just like, wait, it's who?
Even like it completely turns everything we've ever known about the setting on its head.
Yeah, and the thing is, up to that point, that wasn't. It's the biggest revelation in the entire book. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that happened because I've just re-listened because I've read them as before, but I recently have been working through my Audible stuff as I'm working. So I've listened to both the Beckwin books on Audible, which has given me a much better appreciation for what Abnett was doing with those two books, and why I've come to this realization that he couldn't have written Pandemonium until he'd done all the heresy stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just like, there's stuff here that I kind of took it on board, but I didn't really take it on board. It's only listening to it, but it's in like, wait, what did they just say? There's a what now? They're doing what? Who's working with who? And it's just like, oh my giddy aunt.
Yeah, and it's weird because like I'm quite old in my preferences where the tabletop's concerned. I preferred it when it was non-linear. I preferred it when it was just a mess of ideas that you could play around with and a bit of a sandbox. I got a bit narked when they moved it to a story-driven setting. But now they've moved it to a story-driven setting. I'm kind of on board with it. I still think they should be a bit more sandboxy with it. But when you come across stuff like has happened in the second Beckwin book, I don't know how they can do that in a story-driven tabletop wargame setting where everything is so well established without basically throwing it all out of the window and starting over again.
Yeah, I mean, the books are kind of an interesting case, especially the Eisenhorn rather than the Beckwin stuff, because they did effectively spring out of the old Inquisitor tabletop game.
Yeah,
which was such an odd experiment for GW that I think me and Gruff have talked about it a few times, and the guys have as well on the main cast, because it was so out there at the time, but it introduced so many concepts that are now kind of quite fundamental to how we understand not just the Inquisition, but some of the other factions, and how things operate in the Imperium.
Yeah.
And Eisenhorn, who began as a character in that game, the character, because he was one of the two you got if you bought the book in the bundle they did in stores. And Abnett just spun him off into this, and he took the whole concept of the Inquisitor game with the Inquisitor and their retinue, and just took it and ran with it in a way that I don't think anyone really expected.
No, but it was so pivotal for the setting.
Yeah, and the thing is, it doesn't really translate to the tabletop, but the stuff that it explores has influenced the lore of so many factions that do translate to the tabletop.
I disagree. I think it translates to tabletop quite well. If we're talking about the game itself, the problem Inquisitor had is the scale.
Oh yeah, the scale. The miniatures were lovely, but asking people to invest in building 54mm terrain was taking the piss slightly.
Yes, which is why Inc. 28 works so well.
Yes, because the thing is, the Inquisitor rule set is a damn fine rule set. I still have my original copy of the rules. It's wonderful to read through.
Yeah,
because just that one book alone, even not counting any of the stuff they did from the Fanatic supplements for it, just that core book, you can do so much weird ass stuff with and go real crazy. But you can also go real mundane. You can make some real. You can either go full on. Well, you can make a Space Marine.
Yeah.
And it fully explains to you why you don't want to do that, because the one Space Marine character is ludicrous.
Yep.
I tried making a Grey Knight and regretted my life choices because he was just batshit insane.
Being a Dark Angels player, I specifically picked up that Marine kit, and started hacking at it with Dremel because it was going to be a fallen angel.
Ooh.
And when I told the GM this, I just got a flat out no. Not even like, we will compromise, not even a discussion, just a, no, get the fuck out of my house. And I wish I was kidding by the get the fuck out of my house. He literally told me, fuck off and leave. And not come back until I reassess my life, my life, my brain, everything, because he was not going to allow that.
I mean, a Space Marine not in power armor could have been interesting.
Yeah, Yeah,
Still
but no, we were going to go
redonkulous,
full
but
power armored. I mean,
Oh.
in his defense, we played a lot of White Wolf stuff, and he let me create. Oh God, what was the game where you had? It was sort of Age of Sigmar-ish, and you had like godlike heroes. I can't remember what it was called, but they had a game where you had like godlike medieval heroes. He let me
okay.
spec. There was a character that I built, which was basically he could have been a Sigmarine. This was way before any of this was a thing. It was just kind of the mental image I had in my head. Having seen Sigmarines now, he was a Sigmarine. Anyway, he was very stereotypically hoity-toity knight. He referred to his squire as boy. And he had this one attack, which was it was the equivalent of dropping a nuke on a town.
Okay.
And that was effectively an out-of-the-box level 1 type character, and he let me get away with it and regretted it every time that I played that game. So I fully understand why he didn't want me to be a Space Marine.
I mean,
yeah.
myself and some other guys, we played a game at one of the vet nights of a local GW back in the day where each of us just took a Space Marine character. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And showed us fully why you don't want to have any Space Marines within a mile of that campaign if you can really avoid it.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I never got why the Fantasy Flight RPG that let you play Space Marines got as much support as it did, because it just sounded horribly broken. Like, I've read stories where Space Wolf players would literally rip the tops off mountains and stuff, and it's just like, what? And this is a playable RPG? What? And it's not horrifically broken? What?
Yeah, that's no bueno.
Mm.
And I think there's something to be said for having a system that does replicate what a Space Marine does with a bit of accuracy, but you got to keep the fun in as well.
Yeah.
And if everyone else is kind of squishy mainline human, then having a post-human whose stats are all in the hundreds is just not a fun experience.
I mean, it's going back to Gaunt's Ghost briefly. Like, I read a few complaints recently about how the scenarios that they shouldn't have been able to walk away from, and having just read Traitor General, where they take on 5 Chaos Marines without a scratch. Yeah, I kind of get it, but at the same time, it's a book about Gaunt's Ghosts, and you might have 1 or 2 deaths, sure, but they aren't going to kill off major characters unless they absolutely want to and have to.
I mean, that's tempting fate with Abnett, to be honest, because he does have a willingness to just drop a beloved character, carking it on you with barely any setup. Bragg, Corbeck. There's one which, if you only got up to Traitor General, I'm not going to tell you.
As I say, I don't care about spoilers. I've kind of been skimming wikis and stuff in this, like.
I'm still not going to tell you because I don't want to be responsible for revealing it, because it's another one where I had to go back and just double check and make sure he had done what I thought he'd done. But I mean, the thing for Ghosts, you got to remember, it's one. They're basically Dan's special ops. They're every special ops from every action movie you ever seen.
Yeah.
War movie or not, they're all those archetypes bundled together and thrown into the 40K universe.
Yep. Mixed in with a bit of sharp.
Yeah. And it's not like a lot of the missions they go on are not batshit insane to start with. I mean, you've got the Guns of Tanith is. I mean, it would only really work with the Ghosts because of their skills. Honor Guard isn't actually a mission that's supposed to survive. It's literally a Deus Ex Machina that saves the day.
Yep.
It's a brilliant one, but it's still.
Yeah. And I think it kind of sells the whole, like, we keep coming across points of, like, miraculousness in the Imperium and stuff, where it's supposedly a mass. Like, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Like, it's a setting where the fantastical can happen, and I think the Gaunt's Ghost novels sell that.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's a setting where there's literally a faction whose main ability is miracle dice. because they believe in the God Emperor of mankind that hard.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the ghost stories even has Larkin being advised by an angel.
Yeah. While he's in a bit of a mental...
on the one hand, it might be his brain doing Larkin things to his brain. On the other hand, he does have that strip of cloth she gave him wrapped around his barrel when they find him.
Yep. Or there's I can't remember which novel it's in. The trench warfare one, of which there's been a couple, so that's not where there's the house that appears.
Yes, yeah. And
that's suddenly not there.
And the sister who
died like 9,000 years ago or whatever.
Asks him to remember her to Sabbath when he meets her next.
Yeah.
Or when he meets her for the first time.
Yeah. So, like, as far as ludicrousness in the 40k setting goes, it kind of sells it because, it's a world where chaos gods can literally manifest themselves in reality and tear everybody a new asshole. So, of course, the Imperium's going to need something to counter that, which doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah. And it only gets more and more bonkers as we enter the era Indomitus.
Yeah.
Funny old thing, opening a great old warp rift doesn't just help the powers of chaos.
Yeah, suddenly you get a shitload more psychers on one side. Some of them can be good, some of them can be bad. It's always a bit of a gamble, but there's a lot more psychic potential out there, which means a lot more potential for batshit things to happen.
And belief just happens to become a whole lot more, what's the word? Useful.
Yeah, and potent, and...
Yeah, it's interesting. And I actually do quite like that a lot of recent fiction kind of taps into that stuff.
Yeah, there needs to be more of it, I think. Or we need to see more from Gaunt and Co. where this stuff is happening. But who knows? I am only halfway through the series.
I mean, I'm so waiting for the announcement of a new Gaunt's Ghost novel.
There's one scheduled, isn't there?
Well, I mean, the Vehicular Conspiracy is supposed to be book one of the Ghost Files, which is supposed to be like a series that will thread through the main. It'll kind of take place alongside the events of the main Gaunt's book, Ghost books, kind of fill in some gaps here and there and just set some stuff up, which I'm intrigued to see how that goes. And I hope we do get another mainline book set after Anarch, because currently the latest story we have is one of the short stories from the anthology, the Sabbath War anthology.
Yeah.
Which is brilliant, but equally where it leaves things is like, oh, I want more of this. I want more of these characters. Please, Dan, please.
There's also there's all the spin-off titles as well. Like I've literally just found out that there was a planned release for a sequel to Double Eagle, which is one of my favorite books.
Yep, that's been in the offing for so long, and
over a decade now.
I mean, let's be honest. He's been a tad busy, what with the Horus Heresy, and writing one book into the three biggest books in the whole Siege of Terror series, which I still can't believe. But,
they just need to change whose desk. That's all they need to do. Set the squigs on him.
Well, they used to have the old gag that he had the Abnett clones, which is why he was so prolific back in the day. And I think I can't remember if he ever had a heart attack or a stroke. It was one or the other, bless him. So he cut back. So that's the crazy thing. His output at the moment, that's him having cut back.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like, for any manga and anime fans out there, we all know the anime and manga industry is a hellhole where people literally do work 20 hours a day and stuff. I think Abnett probably put some of these people to shame at his peak.
I mean, at one point, he had 3 Gaunt's Ghost novels come out within 1 year, if I remember rightly. He had multiple short stories, because he had a whole bunch of Warhammer short stories that eventually became the White Wolf novel, which he co-wrote with his partner Nick. I remember there was a point where he wrote every strip in one issue of 2000 AD and every title in Warhammer Monthly in the same period. And he was also doing stuff for DC and Marvel at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is just nuts.
You were saying about ghost novels coming out multiple per year. I'm just literally skimming the Wikipedia entry. So, first and only 1999, Ghostmaker 2000, Necropolis 2000, the same. So the Omnibus edition was 2004, but it contained 4 books, which came out in 2001, 2002, 2003. The Lost, which the Omnibus came out in 2010, contained 4 or 5 books, which was 2004, 2005, 2006, 2008, 2008. Another one in 2009, 2011. Yeah, the guy just cranked stuff out for over a decade.
Yeah, and I mean, the main reason that there was such a gap between Salvation's Reach and Warmaster was pretty much because of Horus Heresy.
Yeah.
I mean, he was also writing... No, he ended his run on for Marvel Cosmic with Guardians and Nova just before that, to be fair. But yeah, he wrote a good chunk of the Horus Heresy even before the Siege of Terror.
Yeah.
I mean, out of the Siege of Terror, he wrote 4 of the books, including the big finale. So,
which was 3 books in 1. Well, 1 book in 3. You know what I mean.
Each of which was bigger than the book that preceded it, which I still can't believe, frankly.
I am still so far away from even starting the Siege of Terror. I got up to the first White Scars book and I had to stop because do you get this? When you're starting a novel, you just struggle to get into it until you're actually reading it.
Yeah, I've had that. I've had a couple of instances where I was reading Ashes of Cadia, and I got to a point and I stopped, and then I was talking to Swanee, both in a podcast we did and also just chatting over Twitter, and the way she sold that book to me really made me want to go back to it. So I did, and I forced myself to push through and get back into it, and then I just tore through it in like a day.
Yeah, I'm starting to get that
because it just clicked. But before that, I'd really struggled. But
yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I was trying to read through all the Heresy novels, so I picked up where I'd left off, which was like book 10 or something. I got deep into the 20s, which is where the first White Scars novel came up. I got a page into the first White Scars book, and just like I just can't. I am not enjoying this. It sucks already.
I get it. There's so much Horus Heresy stuff. 2, the quality can be massively variable.
Yeah.
And the White Scars in particular, because I think that's Scars, the book you're talking about.
Yeah.
That especially is an odd one because it didn't start as a novel. It was it's all short, sort of like novella length material that was then edited together into the novel.
Okay.
So
interesting.
It didn't publish that way originally.
Right.
It was collected as a novel and then published, but before that it was done, I think, online as the shorts.
Did not know that. That might explain why I was having a hard time with it. But again, I was literally like a page or 2 in, which is when I was just like, I have to stop.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, some of the like Heresy stuff is barnstorming stuff. It really does click massively.
I'm desperate to get up to like Titan Death and stuff.
But also some of it can just be, because there is so much of it, and it's the biggest complaint about the Heresy that sometimes it feels like it's spinning wheels to get to the big moments.
Yeah, which is weird because there's so much of the Heresy that's missing. Yeah.
And I don't actually agree with a lot of that because so much of what comes later only really works with a lot of that earlier material because they are taking the time to build things up.
Yeah, there's a lot of setup going on, which doesn't always make sense until you get the payoff.
Yes.
Which I fully get, which is why there are certain YouTubers that I respect who will suggest that you should skip certain books, and I flat out refuse to because I know there's probably going to be something in there that sets something up later on that will eventually pay off.
Yeah, but I do understand why they recommend that. I do understand it, and I don't begrudge from saying that because it is sometimes it is daunting.
Case in point, I had to stop reading Scars because I just couldn't. Like a handful of pages in, and it just didn't grab me. I didn't like it. I wasn't enjoying it. Some of this might be predisposed because I've heard YouTubers say skip the Scars novels.
See, I do, because I actually quite like the Scars books.
Okay.
I think Path of Heaven in particular is a cracking book, and has some. I mean, it sets the Khan up for how he ends up at Terror for one thing, but it also has some interesting implications in place.
Yeah.
But it does some really nice work with the Legion as well. But the White Scars they're a bit of an oddity because they're the Legion that does actually have an internal revolt.
Yeah.
That makes them quite in a big way, not just bits and pieces rebelling against their Primarch's choice. We're talking a big chunk of the Legion does.
Interesting, because I always thought there wasn't enough of that going on in the earlier books.
But how it's resolved is actually it's a very White Scars way they resolve it, which I quite like. But I get why people would say to me, because in the long term it isn't as consequential as it could be, but I quite liked what it did for the Legion as a whole.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's one of the strengths of this whole era of the heresies. It's a lot of these books are fleshing out legions and characters who we sometimes have only known as a name or a stereotype.
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice that this material is out there to give you that extra depth to dig into if you want to. You don't have to, but you can.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I still can't get over the time skip between which books was it? The one where Vulcan lives and the one straight after it. Betrayal of Calth, or no, not Betrayal of Calth. Unremembered Empire, yeah. Where it's the time skip between those two novels is unforgivable, considering the comments around filler books. Like, seriously, what happened on the Invincible Reason? How did the Khan just suddenly, not the Khan, Vulcan just suddenly teleport into the slowest freefall known to man?
I know the Vulcan one.
Go on.
It's because at the end of Vulcan Lives, he reveals the fact that his hammer's a teleporter.
Oh, no, I know that. But there was like 6 months between him teleporting and appearing on McCrag.
Oh, I just wave out, and I just wave my hand and say, "Oh, it's wibbly wobbly timey-wimey warp stuff."
Yeah, I suppose, but still, it's just like that is the slowest freefall ever experienced by anybody.
Yeah, I've actually just started listening to the Unread Emperor on Audible because I was trying to find. I didn't want to go straight into the Siege of Terror audiobooks, so I thought I'd pick something from the Heresy to read, and I thought, "Oh, Unread Empire. Let's listen to that one." That's quite. It's one of these books I've been kind of forming an opinion of the Primarchs in terms of who's coming back.
Yeah.
And the fact that we've had Guilliman and Valiant.
Yeah.
Logically, Sanguinius would make sense if he wasn't genuinely dead.
Yeah.
But it actually makes sense to have Russ come back kind of as his proxy. But I've also been intrigued by how they've been matching a loyalist Primarch, not against their kind of their natural opposite.
I could actually see an argument for Sanguinius coming back, but not Sanguinius.
Yeah, I mean, what they've been doing with him in the recent Blood Angel books is interesting, but I've
not been following them, so I don't know.
I won't reveal anything, but I don't. They've been kind of skipping around bringing him back. They've been finding other ways to have him interact with his sons. So it's more his spirit.
Yeah,
and I like that fact, the idea that his spirit is out there, but his body is no. He was completely murked. There's no way he can come back from that.
Kind of what I was thinking, like just thinking back to the conversation of, a great big bloody warp holes just opened up and things are a bit more warpish now and odd stuff can happen. Maybe you could get a manifestation of Sanguinius to actually be the representation of him on the tabletop.
Well, I'll try and be as circumspect about as I can, but basically what they've come, the way they working is that Sanguinius is a presence in the warp, but he can't actually manifest directly.
Okay.
So everything he does is kind of through proxies,
Yeah.
which is why you have the Sanguinor. It's why you have
Right.
Mephiston. They are kind of proxies for him for particular aspects of his bloodline, and for Dante as well. They all are kind of like exemplars of particular elements of what he was.
Yep.
Which I think is actually quite nice for Blood Angels. But I found it quite interesting that when you look at the Primarchs, so they brought back Magnus on his own as a stand. He was the first plastic Primarch. That was the test bit. But then they brought back Guilliman, and they kind of paired him up against Mortarion. And they were never really antagonists in the Heresy era. They brought back the Lion and paired him with Angron. Same thing.
Again,
they were never really Angron's opposites were normally Russ or Sanguinius.
Yes.
They were quite literally his opposites in very specific ways.
Yeah.
And I'm intrigued by the idea that we know that the Emperor's Children are coming.
Yep.
And we know now that the Space Wolves won't have a codex probably until at least late next year at the very earliest.
Yep.
I'm expecting them to be given the Dark Angels treatment from 9th, be kind of like one of the last codexes.
Yeah.
But purely because I expect it to be Russ and Fulgrim as the opposing Primarchs there, because again, they're two Primarchs we've never seen them interact.
Yep.
We know their opinions of each other, but they're not characters who, at any point in the Heresy, we saw interact. Even their legions didn't really interact.
That's not strictly true, because you've got the Ulanor. Was it Ulanor? No, not Ulanor. Where the judgment was held, where the ciphers were stopped.
The Council of Nicaea. Yeah, you had Nicaea, I suppose, but we didn't. But we never really saw them in the Heresy itself face off against each other.
No, they never really faced off. They always kind of traded blows in a very roundabout words kind of way, and there were limited interactions with them, which led to Nicaea.
Yeah.
So I can kind of see an argument for why they would have been said to have interacted. But it kind of comes back to what we were saying before, right? Where if you follow the company for long enough, you start to see patterns in how they do things. We know they have a way of ending each edition now. They've done it for like 3 or 4. We know there is the big bang right at the end where they drop something massive over 4 or 5 campaign books. Where there is the big reveal of, oh, look, 2 new massive characters have come back. Ooh!
Yeah. But
I mean, all of this is very predictable at this stage.
Oh yeah, and the thing is, at this point, Russ makes sense both not only because the Space Wolves are probably the most popular non-codex. Well, they are the non-codex chapter. Let's be honest.
Well, Dark Angels as well, but
not in the same way.
No, they deviate more from the codex.
But also Russ, when you look at the trifecta, if you took the trifecta of Russ, Guilliman, and the Lion, I've realised that each of them represents a very particular aspect, but they're also kind of mirrors of each other in certain ways. So Guilliman, we know, he's the empire builder, he's the great statesman.
Yep.
But he's also the avenging son with this great well of anger in him if it's roused. But it's very hard to do that. But he also is he's the one who probably believed the most in the vision of what the Imperium could be, which is why he was training. He was quite keen on training his sons to be statesmen when there was peace. Russ and the Lion are interesting because the Lion has a mask of civility, but he raised himself as a beast.
Yep.
He never seeks command, but he always rises to it.
Yep.
And in a lot of ways, his current position post-resurrection, where he's not actually assumed direct command of the Unforgiven.
Yeah.
He's more using them as a way to continue to act as the knight errant across the Imperium, which is kind of like he's found his purpose as in that role, where he's not forced to take command. Whereas Russ was raised by wolves, became a king because he was by adoption.
Mm.
But he puts on the mask of being the brutal warlord. But that's not who he is at all.
Yeah.
And so the idea of him coming back as that more wizened Odin type of character, I'm fully expecting him to have the eye patch. We know his spear's in a temple somewhere.
Yeah.
Because he kept leaving it behind. And it tracks for him to have... They're all being given one of the Emperor's cast-offs, so yeah, he had the Emperor's spear before he went missing, so he's going to have it when he comes back, whether he wants it or not.
Yep.
And just the potential interactions at play there of a returned Russ. We haven't even had the Lion interact with Gilliman yet.
No. I mean,
I'm
anybody.
I'm really anticipating that massively to see them bring those two together.
Mine and Adam's jokes about them just slagging emails at each other.
Yeah, that is quite funny. That was quite a funny idea. But
like no interaction, just oi, smelly git. What are you up to?
Yeah, but then just the idea that Russ returns, and both of them have very particular ideas of how Russ is.
Yeah,
and how he acts. But to have Russ as the counterpoint to the two of them.
I'm also intrigued if they play on this theory of Russ being the executioner or not as well. Because obviously that was always left up in the air, right? It was always hinted that Russ is the reason that the other two Primarchs don't exist. But it was never confirmed. And Russ the wolves were always more of the legion that you sent to make an example of somebody, not to wipe them out. There was always the Dark Angels have got all of this crazy Dark Age of tech stuff that can literally obliterate things from existence. Aren't they the executioners of the Imperium? So I'm wondering how that aspect could play into it as well.
It's interesting. It's very interesting. On which note, I think we should probably wrap things up because I've just seen what the time is again.
Yeah, it's been 2 hours. We need to stop doing this.
Well, I need to stop doing in general. Me and Andy had a Transformers podcast on Sunday and went for nearly 4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. Everyone should learn by now. Don't get me started because you can't really stop me.
Yeah, I'm the same.
And you know, I encourage people as well when we're talking. So.
And it's so easy to go off on tangents. Like we were here to talk about the announcements. We were here to talk about the reveals. Within 5 minutes, we'd already derailed.
Yep. Mission
That's how these things go.
I think we should add that as the tagline to a Fluffenhammer. Tangents, we got them. But on that note, I've been David. He's been Darren.
I have.
And this has been another episode of, well...
whatever it is that Adam chose to call this, I cannot remember.
And I should really have written that down, because I'm terrible at these things. But no, we hope you've enjoyed this natter. And yeah, we'll have to do another one of these at some point.
Yeah, hopefully they do more reveals to give me an excuse to come on and do stuff.
Well, I was in reveals. I quite like the idea of just getting folks from the Fluffenhammer Discord together to have a general chat about stuff. Not as focused as the main Fluffenhammer show, but just do these little unfocused, winging it chats are quite fun. I enjoy it.
Yes. Yeah, even if it's just to talk shit for an hour about what we've been working on.
Yeah, and you know, if anyone from the group wants to do one of these, or wants to have a natter, let us know. I'm game.
Yeah, same. It's either this, work, or study for me at the moment, so I would much rather be doing this.
Yeah, and I'm currently without full-time employment, so I have lots of time available. So don't feel like you're interrupting my life to do this. But no, anyway.
Until Darren, next time.
Yeah, thanks for joining me, dude. Much appreciated.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
And we'll catch you all next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.